I coach executives transitioning to new roles, and there are a lot of ways that transitions can go wrong. And once they do, it's really difficult to recover. Here are some common executive transition pitfalls and how to avoid them. Transitioning executives accidentally fall into some common pitfalls during transition that can hinder their transition progress and impact. There are 9 common pitfalls that are cited both in research and from my experience working with executives. They are listed here on the screen and we'll go through them each one by one. The first is not taking enough time to read the politics and culture. Cultural missteps is one of the primary reasons senior executives fail, which is why culture is an essential component of executive onboarding. This pitfall usually applies to external hires, but can also happen when internal candidates reach the executive ranks of a company and find that there are some unique politics, subcultures, and vastly different methods of getting things done. Here's how this misstep or pitfall often shows up. Executives don't read the political situation well enough or take the time to build necessary relationships and coalitions. Or they don't learn quickly who can get what done, officially or unofficially, or who has strengths in what, and thus become ineffective at gaining support for key initiatives. Or executives insist on implementing tactics and techniques from their previous jobs that simply don't mesh with the new organization or role. Instead of looking realistically at the current situation, executives can reach back into their bag of tricks that worked before and begin slapping these formulas on the new environment or role without enough context. Or executives can fail to carefully consider the cultural and political aspects of the company or position that are going to be particularly challenging for them. Finally, sometimes executives overestimate the willingness or capacity of the people they lead to abandon old habits and behaviors. The antidote to this pitfall is to take your time to fully read the politics and culture before you move into action, which leads us to pitfall number 2, implementing too fast. Transitioning executives face intense pressure to produce positive results quickly, which can result in the feeling of, I need to prove myself and make my mark as soon as possible. This mindset can result in missteps, including making decisions without truly understanding the potential impact on policies, procedures, people, or yourself. Making too many big decisions too quickly, resulting in whiplash or resistance to change. Or seeking to impress before seeking to help, causing long-lasting impressions that are hard to reverse. As a new executive assimilating to a new position or a new position and new culture, the bottom line truth is that you don't have enough full understanding of your context to craft a comprehensive, reliable plan of action right off the bat. Trying to implement a business strategy without taking corporate culture and employee morale into account is a business strategy only half plan. You must first achieve the cultural changes and followership your strategic and operational agendas require. Seeking input and buy-in isn't as impressive as coming out shooting, right? But it's actually far more helpful, and it's infinitely more likely to lead to success. By the time you start your new role, the organization may seem ready to burst with pending decisions. But just as you should wait to implement a new vision, you should hold off on making long-lasting decisions until you know more. If you really must make decisions, clarify that they're interim. Number 3 is not creating a shared vision. This pitfall is creating a vision for change that is solely yours and doesn't have ideas, input, and buy-in from others. This can result in a vision that isn't the best one, or one that others aren't motivated or inspired to bring to life. Well-trained executives in new roles understand the value of listening and learning before making changes and implementing a new vision. This means getting input and listening and asking others for their ideas. This also means not proposing a new vision immediately, even if you have a lot of ideas. There may be valid reasons why your ideas haven't been implemented yet. Take the time to observe the situation in the company and listen to those around you, including both colleagues and customers. This helps to further shape, deepen, and sharpen your vision. Specifically for internal promotions, use a learner's mindset to relearn the organization dynamics and industry, and refresh or reform relationships before setting the vision. Take time to be curious and understand business challenge and opportunities at the new level you are in. The fundamentals of creating a shared vision start with building relationship, getting input and ideas, creating a following, engaging and aligning with team members, and then working towards setting a vision. Number 4 is not staying at the highest strategic level of the role. New executives often struggle to adapt to the strategic nature of their new role, and then they often fail to detach from other, often lower level roles where they are experts from their previous lives or role. They can easily fall into the trap of getting into the weeds, firefighting, or executing at lower levels. As the scope and responsibilities of transitioning executives increase enormously, they must keep close sight of what really matters, stepping back and achieving strategy through driving execution. The challenge is to rise above the fray and stay at the highest strategic level of the role. Executive breadth, or having the broadest possible knowledge of your organization, how its pieces fit together, and how to bridge the organization's seams where conflict and inefficiencies happen, is the best way to combat this pitfall. This is how executives add value that lower level leaders can't. The 5th pitfall is difficulty adjusting to being constantly evaluated and receiving distorted information. Many executives have trouble coping with the pressure of being constantly observed and evaluated from above, beside, and below. Often, every statement and decision is scrutinized. The right mindset can help combat this pitfall. Transitioning executives should assume they are constantly speaking through a megaphone because everything they say and do is amplified and open to interpretations that can be far from their true intentions. Thick skin must be developed along with the ability to still receive feedback. How messages are received and how messages arrive change dramatically when you are near the organization's top. The information executives get is sifted and sanitized as people may default to telling executives what they think they want to hear. Because of power dynamics, people may hesitate to tell you what is really going on, unfiltered. To combat this pitfall, focus relationships with proteges who will provide you unfiltered perspectives. Encourage everyone to not sanitize data and the messages you receive. And finally, publicly thank those who send you tough messages. The 6th pitfall is not creating partnerships through relationships and trust. Sometimes, through previous roles, executives have distinguished themselves through individualism and then painfully underestimate how much they need others when they get to the top. Additionally, relationships can be a tricky aspect of transitioning into a new executive role. Not only are there many new relationships to form, but there are often relationships to reform. What comes with the new role is new peers, new relationships with former bosses, new direct reports, new relationships with previous peers, and new bosses. These relationships can go sideways if partnership isn't created through trust, investment, and openness. It's likely that a transitioning executive may be facing key stakeholders that are resistant or even skeptical to them or their ideas. The best way to approach resistance or tricky relationships is to build trust through taking time to understand that person's priorities and concerns and figuring out how to help them with those. Additionally, getting to know them more on a personal level in ways you haven't previously is a great place to start. Understandably, most transitioning executives take the time to build relationships with their leader or board and also the team that reports to them. Some, however, take less time to build relationships with their peers, both internal and external to the organization. Understanding your new team of peers and how you can contribute toward creating a healthy, high performing team of peers is just as important to your long term success in the new role. Pitfall 7, allowing expectations to remain unclear. A lack of clear, agreed upon expectations for performance in the new role is one of the biggest derailers of even the smartest leaders. If expectations are allowed to go unexpressed or to remain vague, your ability to meet them will be a miracle. Said another way by my friend Wayne Woodson, unstated expectations are rarely met, and if they are, it's an accident. Clarity around expectations starts with your leader or sponsor, but doesn't end there. All stakeholders have expectations that you should discover. To add complexity, sometimes expectations of a role change after the offer and before day one, or they evolve between your first day and first 6 months. It's a leader's job to uncover and clarify expectations. And don't worry if expectations that you discover are unrealistic or not aligned with yours, or the other expectations that other stakeholders have of you aren't realistic. There's usually room for negotiation. Pitfall 8 is suffering with imposter syndrome. I'm yet to meet a leader in transition who doesn't feel like an imposter at one time or another during their transition, even if it's only briefly. Imposter syndrome is feeling of inadequacy, self-doubt, or feeling like a fraud or that you don't belong in the role. It can often feel like you are in over your head or out of your depth, and it's a matter of time before you get found out. Don't let imposter syndrome plague you. Combat it by knowing that it's common for leaders to experience during transition. Reflect on your success, both past and present. Remember your highlight reel and that the last time you transitioned, it was also challenging. Remember, this role is supposed to be a stretch, which is one reason you took it. Stretching into it will feel like you don't have it all figured out. There's supposed to be a learning curve, and that comes with mistakes. They are your best lessons and don't reflect inadequacy. At the executive level, it's impossible to not make mistakes from time to time. It comes with the territory and even the reason for the role, which is leading calculated risks, not all of which will turn out to be slam dunks. Pitfall 9, not setting healthy personal boundaries from the start. This pitfall happens when an executive works too many hours and stays connected to work in the evenings early on in their transition because there is a feeling that there's so much to do and they want to add value. The trap is thinking that putting in that many hours is just a temporary push to get over the early hump. The results are often that the executive doesn't take care of themselves or their personal lives like they know they should for sustainable performance and satisfaction in the role long term. This pace and level of connectiveness or availability on the executive's part sets a standard that this is what you can expect from the executive ongoing. It also sets a standard with those who the executive leads that this is the pace that they expect others to work at. To combat this pitfall, executives in transition should consciously set healthy boundaries with their schedule and availability from the very first week. Starting with healthy boundaries is so much easier than starting with unhealthy ones and trying to pull them back later. Any new position is an opportunity to set new boundaries, even if you've had unhealthy ones in prior roles.